Hi everyone, welcome back. Today, it's more love for Poe. We're going to be doing steering rack spacers and lower ball joints. I was planning on doing upper ball joints too, but considering you need a press to get those in or just replace your entire upper arm, I didn't just want to go with that. I was going to do the boots, but they're going to take too long to ship, so that'll be just put off for a little bit later. First thing that's going to need to be done, we're going to get the front end up on stands so that we can take the wheels off. That'll help work on our lower ball joints. The steering rack, we just have to unbolt and we should be able to lift it forward and put our spacers in, and then we'll have to adjust our tie rod ends so that we don't have a massive amount of toe out, considering this is gonna push the rack more straight, whereas it needed to be longer to get the angle it's at now. Our steering rack spacer will sit on the platform underneath the rack there, and then the bolts will replace those two bolts on either side, and same thing for the other end of the rack. And so it effectively just raises this by a ½ inch, which right now our suspension is dangling, but when it's compressed, this angle is normally, well, it's supposed to be straight, but with a lowered car, it angles upward. And this is to help move the rack and let it be level, even though it's higher up. The other style of rack spacer would be washers that sit underneath this nut and push this down to lower the end of the tie rod rather than raise the rack. I don't like that because I like having threads there. I'm gonna start now with rack spacer installation, which will just require removing those 4 bolts, raising it up, sliding the spacers in, using the new bolts to secure it. Unfortunately, it looks like the curse of having a JKC rack, which was only in Miatas for a few years or a few months, I don't know. But it doesn't clear the bottom of the rack right there in these grooves, so I'm gonna have to widen these out and probably just shave them straight so that this one can slide in. The other one fits all right on the other side because it's not as extreme as this. I'm gonna go ahead and cut everywhere that isn't tape. And then we'll bevel the edge, kind of like this is. Alright, rack's all tightened down. We have our spacers in there. You can see I would have been able to leave quite a bit of material, but I did have to clear in some no matter what. This side fit perfectly, all good. This bolted down, I loosened this so the rack can move around. So I'll have to tighten that back up. Next, ball joints. As is customary when working on vehicles, everything was fighting me every step of the way, and the real problem is that I don't have the right tool. And that always will slow you down and stop you. I need a ball joint separator or pickle fork to get this off. Overall, this was a lot more work than I was anticipating. I hadn't really looked into how to do it. I just figured I could wing it, and pretty much can. I just need the right tool for this part. So this morning I went to AutoZone and I rented this ball joint separator pickle fork set. It's not the one I wanted to get. I was hoping they'd have the one where there's a screw on one end, but we're gonna give it a shot and get this done. Alright, that was my least favorite thing I've ever done. Use my jack handle to get a little leverage on this. Got a socket somewhere, which 100% expected the socket to break. It was just a cheap Harbor Freight one. Also, it was in standard and not metric, so I didn't care if I broke it. Just had the whole assembly clamped up, basically makeshift press. Cranked on it really hard, stopped cranking, and a few seconds later, a nice pop. And this came out. The hole was, I was planning on drilling it bigger, but anything bigger than the initial size I didn't want to go through all the way. So I moved on to go into the press method, which is what I was expecting to do as soon as I cut off the ball joint itself. Figured at the very least, I could take it somewhere at the end of the day and get it pressed out. I hope the other one isn't this difficult. Now to get the new one in. So that's one side done. I'm not gonna bore you with the other side because hopefully it doesn't take as long and should go quicker from not trying to film. So I did a terrible job of explaining when I was recording before, but now that I'm all done, the ball joint has the upper castle nut there, and then this bolt that goes through the lower control arm sideways. It also has one that sits kind of under your coilover in this little pocket, goes straight down into the lower control arm. The things you need to do, and I went above and beyond this because I couldn't get it and all that, the way it should work is disconnect your tie rod so that you have the ability to swing your knuckle out and access this easier. Then you're gonna leave this bolt in and the other one as well. You wanna leave your coilover attached. So the only thing you really need to undo is the castle nut first. That way you can use your tool and separate the ball joint from the knuckle. Then you'll have to remove this bolt for your coilover. Then you can get the bolt down there and get the bolt to the side. You have to disconnect your sway bar link too so that the arm can drop down and that'll give you access to the lower ball joint. You can see with the car on the ground, even though my rack is raised now with our spacers, we still have a slight angle upward to the knuckle. All of that's okay. It's an improvement either way, and this was necessary. It's just that the car is lowered so much that it doesn't want to cooperate with just those small spacers. Okay, so I'm gonna end this one here. We got a lot of important stuff done in the car, and next we can move on to things that'll make the car look better and a little more exciting. So, thanks for watching. Do all the stuff the YouTube algorithm likes. I'll see you next time. Bye.